Declined? But that can't be right. I'm sorry, it says declined. Want to try again? Oh no, it was declined? Yes, it says declined. Do you have another card? No, I don't have another card. I have a lot of money. I don't understand why my card declined.
I'm sorry, it says declined.
But I don't have any other card.
The sound of a credit card being declined is a specific kind of tragedy. It's not the loud crashing kind, it's the silent, burning red cheeks kind. I stood at the grocery store checkout. 3 boxes of generic brand crackers and a gallon of milk mocked me from the conveyor belts. Try it again, I whispered to the cashier. Declined, honey. Insufficient funds. That was the moment I realized Silas Vane hadn't just broken up with me, he had erased me. I wasn't just a girlfriend anymore, I was a line item he had successfully deleted from his ledger. But there was one thing Silas, the man who owned half the skyline and a hat made of cold, polished marble, forgot. You can't delete a heartbeat, especially not the one growing inside me. 6 months ago, I was Elara Vance, a struggling architecture intern who thought she had found a fairy tale. Silas Vane was everything the tabloids said: brilliant, devastatingly handsome, and intensely private. When he swept me off my feet, I thought I was the exception to his no-strings-attached reputation. He didn't just buy me dinner, he bought me a lifestyle. Silk sheets, Michelin star chefs, and a penthouse that felt more like a museum than a home. But looking back, the signs were there. He never talked about the future. He talked about legacy. I need someone who understands the weight of the Vane name. He would say, tracing my jawline with a thumb that felt like a caliper measuring a diamond's worth than a lover's touch. The accident happened in July. At least I thought it was an accident. We were in Santorini, the sunset painting the white walls gold. He was more attentive than ever. He switched my birth control pills for sugar placebos, a fact I couldn't discover until much later. When I told him I was pregnant, I expected a panic. Instead, he smiled. It wasn't a smile of joy, it was a smile of a man who had just closed a $1 million merger. An heir. He breathed, kissing my forehead. Finally. The shift was subtle at first. I wasn't allowed to work anymore. Too much stress for the baby, Silas claimed. Then came the health consultants. They weren't doctors, they were wardens. They monitored my caloric intake, my sleep cycles, even the books I read. I became a vessel, a high-end incubator. Silas, I want to visit my mom, I said one evening. My mother lived in a cramped 2-bedroom in the suburbs, the kind of place Silas wouldn't even park his SUV near. Your mother's house is full of allergens and bad lighting, Elara. We have the best prenatal yoga instructor coming at 4. Stay here. I felt the walls of the penthouse closing in. It was all glass, yet I couldn't see a way out. Every time I tried to discuss us, our marriage, our life together, he would deflect. We will discuss the legalities once the boy is born, he said. The boy? What if it's a girl? He just looked at me, his eyes as cold as a winter morning in the city. It won't be. The turning point came during the 6th month. I woke up to find a man in a sharp gray suit sitting at the kitchen island. He wasn't Silas. Miss Vance. I am Mr. Sterling, Mr. Vane's head of legal. We need to discuss the exit strategy. My heart hammered against my ribs. Exit strategy? For what? He pushed a thick stack of papers across the marble countertop. The non-disclosure and severance agreements. Mr. Vane feels that your presence in the child's life would complicate the brand. You will be compensated $10 million. You will relocate to a private estate in Switzerland until the birth. After the delivery, the child will remain with Mr. Vane. You will have no further contracts. I felt sick. The expensive organic green juice I just finished threatened to come back up. He wants to buy my baby. He wants to buy me out of my own life. He wants to secure the heir, Elara. Silas's voice came from the doorway. He looked impeccable as always. Not an heir out of place. While I was in the maternity robe, puffy-eyed and terrified. You're a sweet girl, but you're not a Vane. You don't have the pedigree to raise a king. I'm his mother, I screamed. You are the surrogate, he corrected, his voice terrifyingly calm. I just chose to use your heart instead of a lab. Sign the papers, Elara. If you fight me, I will ensure you end up with nothing. No money, no baby, and a reputation so ruined you won't be able to get a job at a lemonade stand. I didn't sign. That night, while Silas was at a charity gala for underprivileged children, the irony nearly choked me. I packed a single duffel bag. I didn't take the diamonds. I didn't take the designer bags. I took my old sneakers, my birth certificate, and the ultrasound photos Silas had left on his desk like they were blueprints for a new skyscraper. I slipped out through the service entrance, the one the caterers used. I had $60 in my pocket and the phone Silas didn't know about. A burner I'd bought weeks ago when I started feeling the wardens watching me too closely. I took a bus to the furthest suburb I could think of. I ended up at the grocery store trying to buy crackers because the morning sickness was hitting me like a freight train. And that's where my card, the one Silas had given me, failed. He had tracked the card. Within 10 minutes of that decline message, a black sedan pulled into the parking lot. I didn't want to see who got out. I ran. Or as much as a 6-month pregnant woman can run. I dug into a crowded laundromat. The smell of bleach and cheap detergents were a stark contrast to the sandalwood scent of the Vane penthouse. Behind a row of industrial dryers, my heart thumping so hard I thought the baby could feel it. I watched through the window as 2 of Silas's security men scanned the streets. They looked like predators, neat, efficient, and relentless. He's not going to stop, I whispered to my belly. He thinks you're an asset, but you're a person. I realized then that I couldn't just hide. Silas Vane owned the police, the media, and the very ground I stood on. If I wanted to keep my child, I had to play his game, but I had to play it better. I reached out to the one person Silas feared, Marcus Thorne. Marcus was Silas's biggest rival, a man who had lost a tech war to Silas years ago and had been waiting for a chink in the armor ever since. We met in a basement diner, the kind of place where the coffee tastes like burnt beans and the boots are cracked vinyl. You are carrying his crown prince, Marcus said, leaning back, a cigarette unlit in his fingers, and he tried to toss you like an unused napkin. That's cold. Even for Silas. I don't want your money, Marcus, I said, my voice trembling but firm. I want protection. I want the world to know what he is. He is not a philanthropist. He's a kidnapper in a bespoke suit. Marcus smiled. The public loves a fallen god, Elara, especially one who mistreats a mother. 3 weeks later, the Vane Foundation's annual Emerald Ball. It was the event of the year. Silas was on stage, the lights making his blue eyes look like ice. He was giving a speech about building the future for the next generation. I walked in through the front doors. I wasn't wearing a maternity robe. I was wearing a blood red gown that hugged every curve of my stomach. I looked radiant and I looked defiant. The room went silent. The cameras, usually reserved for starlets, swung towards me. Silas froze. For the first time in his life, he lost his composure. I didn't scream, I didn't make a scene. I simply walked up to the stage, took the microphone from his hand and looked directly into the camera of the national news crew. Silas Vane wants to talk about the future, I said, my voice echoing through the ballroom. But he forgot to mention that he's currently trying to sue his own unborn son's mother into silence. He forgot to mention that he offered me $10 million to disappear so he could brand this child as his own solo project. The gasp from the crowd was like a physical wave. Silas stepped toward me, his voice a low hiss. Elara, get off the stage, you are delusional. I have the recording, Silas, I lied. Or was it a lie? I tapped the burner phone in my hand. I have the exit strategy papers. I have the names of the consultants you hired to watch me sleep. Do you want the world to see the contract where you priced your own child at $10 million? The scandal was nuclear. In the age of social media, Silas couldn't bury the truth. The protector of the future was revealed to be a cold-hearted puppeteer. His stock plummeted. His board of directors, terrified of the PR nightmare, demanded he fixed it. With Marcus Stone's legal team backing me, we fought a custody battle that gripped the nation. I will never forget the day in court when Silas had to sit there and listen to his own legal team admit that he had tried to incentivize my departure. The judge, a woman who had clearly seen enough men like Silas, didn't hold back. Mr. Vane, you seem to confuse a family with a franchise, she said. I live in a small house now. It's not a penthouse. The floors creak and the sink leaks sometimes, but the walls are filled with color, not cold marble. My son, Leo, is 6 months old now. He has Silas's eyes, that piercing intelligent blue, but he has my smile. Silas is allowed supervised visits once a month. He shows up in his armored SUV, looking out of place among the plastic toys and the smell of baby formula. He tried to hand me a check last week, an extra allowance he called it. Keep it, Silas, I said, bouncing Leo on my hip. He doesn't need your millions to have a name. He already has mine. As Silas walked back to his car, alone in his expensive suit, I realized something. He hadn't tried to get rid of me because I wasn't good enough. He tried to get rid of me because I was the only thing in his life he couldn't buy, trade, or control. And as I closed the door, I didn't feel like a victim of a billionaire. I felt like the woman who had finally taught him the value of something he could never own.